Good day, podcast community. We have a special guest. I think of all the days where I saw bats flying from parents and all the unusual behavior of our sports minded parents. And when I had a conversation with Steve, I said, man, we got to get you on the podcast because I've always had a burning desire of coaching parents, but I never wanted to go that route. So, Steve, tell our viewers who you are, what you do, and who you serve, and then we'll get into our podcast.
Well, I'm Steve Galley. I am a husband, grandfather, father of four, and I'm a retired high school basketball coach and teacher of 32 years, but not retired. I retired from that, but now I'm a certified high performance coach, and I'm partnered with another high performance coach, and we create content and coaching for ambitious, high achieving parents of teenage athletes and performers. And we also coach the teens as well.
I love it. I have two questions, but I'm going to start with this one. I always tell people or share with them that once they retire, and it happened to me, I did something completely different. You're coaching for 30 plus years and you're retiring. What got you into high performance coaching and that avenue?
Well, I have to tell you, Pete, it was really unexpected because in the years leading up to my retirement from education, I was looking at all sorts of different things because I wanted to hit the ground running when I retired from teaching, but there was nothing that was really landing with me, nothing that was really exciting me like teaching had 32 years previous to that. I mean, that was my dream job. I lived it. But I had this friend who is also now my co-founder and my business partner, and I gave him a book. I can't remember. We've tried to pinpoint the year. We could probably go look at the actual order online and see when it was, but I gave him a book about 10 years ago that was titled The Motivation Manifesto by one Brendan Burchard. Okay. And I saw it online. I didn't know who Brendan Burchard was. I decided to order the book. I'm like, this is great. I love motivational stuff. It's a rah-rah cheerleading book written in declaration language from Revolutionary War times. Really nice book. And I just thought, this is awesome. And I knew my buddy Nate. He's one of those guys that walks around with a smile on his face 24/7. I'm like, Nate's going to love this book. So I sent it to him. And he did love it, but we didn't talk that much about it. And we stayed in contact. We had, he was one of my former assistant coaches on my staff. And then he went on to become a head coach. And as far as coaching basketball, high school basketball, we went our separate ways, but we stayed in contact. And we would go every spring. We would go to the college basketball tournaments, conference tournaments in Las Vegas to see the Mountain West, the Pac-12. So I'd given this book way back when. We had also read High Performance Habits that Brendan wrote in, I think, 2017 maybe. But we didn't talk that much about it. We go to Las Vegas during 2020, March 2020. We actually flew to Las Vegas in the morning and then flew back that night because everything had shut down. Our wives told us not to go, but we're really smart guys. So we went anyway. So just a few days later, they shut down school. Wow. And we're both runners. And Nate calls me up and he says, "Hey, I know you're not doing well with this COVID thing." And I said, "You're right. I'm not doing well with this. I don't like this whole, what is going on here?" And he said, "Well, I'm training for a marathon right now. We can't go to school." This is when, Pete, we were still even trying to figure out, like, what is Zoom? And explain to me how I'm going to get 40 kids at 8 a.m. excited about being on Zoom.
Yeah. Exactly.
So to be honest, that first few weeks, not a lot was happening. So he says, "Let's go run in the morning." He goes, it'll be good for you. It'll be good for me. And that guy, Pete, and you can appreciate this as a high performance coach. He started coaching me without my permission, and I still give him a hard time about that. So he started
Yeah.
he was asking me questions. And
Yeah.
keep in mind, I've been in sport coaching now for 30 some years or what.
Yeah.
He started asking me questions that I had never been asked before.
Yeah.
And asking it in a way that I had never been asked before. And I was blown away. I wasn't in the greatest running shape. I wasn't training for any race at the time. So I wasn't totally thrilled about the running, but I couldn't wait to get back to our next run because I kept thinking, what is he going to ask me today? And how is this going to shift my thinking?
Yeah.
And it didn't take very long. I don't know, a couple of weeks. We were done with the run, and I just said, hey, you have to come clean. Like, where is this coming from? Like, what is going on? And he said, well, it's this thing called certified high performance coaching. And I said, it kind of sounds like a program. And he says, well, yeah, it is. He goes, Brendan Burchard has this coaching community and this high performance framework, and he's telling me more about it. And I was just blown away. I was like, wow, this is really cool. This is really interesting to me. And I said, so Nate, where did this come from? And he points the finger at me and he goes, it came from you. And I go, what do you mean it came from me? And he goes, remember years ago, you sent me the Motivation Manifesto by Brendan Burchard. I said, yeah, I remember that. He goes, well, I started following him more closely. And then, we got the High Performance Habits book. I really started studying those 6 habits. And I just thought this because he's a teacher and a coach. He said, this will just help me to be a better person. This will help me to be a better coach, better teacher, better everything. And so he started exploring it. And he goes, man, I found out that, yeah, you can become a part of this coaching community and you can have these frameworks and you can, and I said, I go, how long have you been doing this? And he said, I don't know, 3 years. And I said, and you never said anything to me?
Wow.
And he said, no. And I said, and we've now come to understand that there's, and we're both men of faith. So we both just have come to realize that there's timing involved in certain things.
Yeah.
And where I had been searching for something that was going to match me and my skill set and remaining years of my life and how I could make an impact, this was a huge puzzle piece in that transformation for me, and then becoming a certified high performance coach.
Wow. I love that. I had something similar. I was on the West Coast with a client 10, 12 years ago. And she said, hey, I've got a ticket to a seminar up in San Francisco. We were in LA. She said, do you want to go visit this? Do you want to go to this seminar? I said, yeah, well, I'm on the West Coast. And it was Brendan Burchard. And I went up there and I absolutely was blown away, like everybody usually is. But I kind of lost track of him until a couple years ago. I was listening to Ed Milet and him on a podcast, and he mentions Growth Day. I went, dang, what the heck is that? I mean, there's got to be, he said online personal growth, community. Right. And I checked it out. I got it. And I started going up, I was like, geeked out. I was like, this is amazing. And I had completely lost touch with him for those 10 years or so. Yeah, I agree. I have the manifesto in my back bookcase. But, that decision And I totally align with what you just described. Like I see that need in the youth because we're
Mm.
changing rapidly. I mean, AI is flipping this world upside down, and you and I have life experiences. I'm about probably the similar age, but when you're younger, you don't have those lessons. So as you're applying this to the parents, are you also touching the kids with high performance and the coaching experience transformation?
Sure. I mean, when we initially started, and Nate's still teaching,
Mhm.
but he was doing some high performance coaching on the side. I was building my business and I was mainly doing one-on-one coaching.
Mhm.
And we started we just hatched the idea one Saturday morning when we were working together that
Hmm.
what could we do for the parents? Because we thought about coaching high school coaches and we thought, no, those guys are too egotistical and they're too crazy. Like, why would you ever want to spend time with people like ourselves? And
Yeah.
then we we did think about coaching the kids, and Nate's been doing that. He's been working with teens, doing
Mhm.
high performance coaching. I really wasn't, but we decided to create a message of how could we create our own message and how can we use high performance coaching to help teens,
Mhm.
right? And so that's when we started our podcast 2 years ago. Was we called it Stop Parenting and Start Coaching, and we just started the podcast as a way to create our own message and shape our own message. We had no idea if we would last 2 episodes, if we would last 20, if we would love it, if we would hate it, if
Mhm.
anybody would listen. And here we are 2 years later, and we've still continued it. But yeah, our goal is to help uh, ambitious parents, ambitious teens, and we actually use a hybrid model where the we coach the family.
Wow.
So Nate and I split up, and
Mhm.
I coach the parents. Nate coaches the teen, and we do some family collaboration, but we also do some mental performance work. Like right now, we're doing a mental performance cohort with some teens, and we kind of tag team that. But yeah, our basic message is that we do some things as parents with great intention, but with poor results. And I do also want to say this, Pete, like we tend to, you were talking about the throwing bats and and I mean, I've seen the crazy stuff in gyms,
Yeah.
with basketball parents. And if you ever went to a wrestling match, you would maybe see some of the same things. If you went to a drill team competition, you would see some of the same things. We we sometimes do things in those situations that are obviously not helpful, that are, if we looked at video later, we would maybe be shocked at, like, why am I doing this?
Mhm.
And we end up putting so much pressure on teens in the wrong way. Sometimes we communicate with a 16-year-old like he's still a 9-year-old. And then sometimes we have sports parents that are communicating with a 9-year-old like he's an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
And and yet the intentions are often very good. We want the best for our kids, right?
Yeah.
We want to see them succeed. We want to see them build confidence. But we really focus on this idea that if we'll stop parenting, and some people get a little upset by this, Pete, but we
Mhm.
don't mean stop being their parent.
Yeah. I know.
We
Yeah.
but move more into and you would understand this as a high performance coach, move more into a high performance coaching mode where we're more curious, less judgmental,
Mhm.
and we really work on that connection
Yeah.
because we think it's so needed, especially as you said, the world, I mean, AI is turning the world upside down. We have kids that are lonely. We have kids addicted to their screens. We have kids that at age 5 have had so much dopamine that there's some real struggles, some real serious issues out there. So we're just trying to, there's that big pond out there of water, and we're trying to take our little pebble, drop it in the pond, create a ripple effect among the people that we come in contact with.
I love it. I wanted to ask this when it comes to kind of the adult pride that we find out there. I guess about a year and a half ago, when I was just getting certified and I was reaching out to some of my podcast guests, and I reached out to this guy. I laugh about it even today. And he said, "Are you trying to sell me coaching?" And I said, "Well, I'm selling you a strategy session. You may want it, you may not, but we don't know if we don't go through a strategy session." And he goes, "Have you seen my resume?" And I said, "Well, no, but I know the kind of person you are. I don't need coaching." So, and he had a son. So I asked him about his son because they had a really good business. And I don't know, I haven't talked to him in a year, but I said, "Well, how do you relate to your son is doing a lot of things. He's very talented." He goes, "I tell him what to do. Like he puts the boundaries." And I said, I could see the problem right there is like, you can't tell people, you got to coach them. So what do you find when you are talking to the parents that have that big ego and they think they should have been the professional basketball player but didn't work out, and they're trying to live through their kids? How do you get through that mindset to help them to be open to learn, to look at parenting as coaching a little bit more in their how they deal with their
Right.
athletic kids?
Oh boy, you hit the big pain point for us.
Mm-hmm.
And this maybe sounds like a little bit of a cop out, Pete, but I don't know if we can help that person until they lose a little bit of pride. I have this theory. I don't know if I can prove it. I'm not sure if I'm even interested in proving it because I want to spend my time elsewhere, Pete. But
yeah,
I believe everybody deserves coaching. Like I just believe we're all no human is worth more than another human. I believe we're all deserving of coaching because coaching helps, no question.
totally agree.
I think everybody needs coaching. Like I just think we're better. I know I'm better. And I lament the fact that I stopped being coached when I was done playing sports in college.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I had mentors. I had people that you would consider consultants. I had colleagues, friends, confidants, but I never had coaching like I've had in the last few years.
Yeah.
So I think people deserve coaching. Everybody needs coaching. The next thing is I think some people want coaching. This gentleman you're talking about, he doesn't want coaching. I think he deserves it, even if he is being prideful and stubborn. I think he needs it. I do think he needs it. But then there's a fourth level that I think there are people that aspire to receive coaching. And they really, like they almost crave it because they know, okay, I've reached this level. And I would say to that dad, how did you get to where you are? I mean, you're very proud of your resume, and he probably should be. Maybe it's I don't know. Maybe his resume is 2 pages long, Pete. It's just done all these incredible things. So how did you get there? Was that just me in the end zone pounding my chest? Me? Did you ever have any help? The second part of that is when he talks about, hey, I just tell him what to do. That forever has been one of the most effective ways to get things done. You can ask every dictator of any country around the world. It is an effective process. We're just going to tell people what to do. We're just going to force them what to do. And Nate and I mean, that's referred to as authoritarian style coaching.
Yeah.
I had a lot of that growing up in the 70s. I had a lot of that from coaches, and it is very effective. Authoritative coaching is much better, which is a little bit of a shift. And that's where, yeah, you don't just turn them loose. Because some people, when they hear stop parenting and start coaching, they think, oh, we're going to be the cool parents, right?
Right.
And you could just do whatever you want, and we just let them learn. And you want to try heroin? Hey, great, go try heroin. It'll be let's see what happens. No, it's like we put up guardrails and boundaries, but we're going to ask more questions than just give direct orders. So back to this guy, I feel bad for him. I feel bad for his son, because I don't know if there's anything you could say or I could say that's going to completely shift that. I think it would take him a little bit of time to realize where he could tweak things, where he could take the thing. And I'll bet you he's doing some really, really good things. I would almost guarantee. Yeah.
And I wanted to stop you just for a second, because when I read some of your answers when I was before the pod, well, this was a couple of weeks ago, and you mentioned something I thought is really dead on. When we're working for somebody for an extended period of time, we have a mindset. And then when you step into entrepreneurship, it is like completely different. You have to operate differently. You have to think differently. You have to grow. You have to learn. You have to be more inquisitive about things. So how, for you, 30 some years of coaching and working for a school system and doing that. So how did you handle that shift that comes with entrepreneurship and the whole mindset? You look in the mirror and it's up to you. I mean, it's not like nobody's giving you a paycheck on Friday. You got to make it happen. You got to add value. So share with our viewers kind of that mindset shift that you had to go through.
Wow. I would say I am still going through it, even though, and I'm entering my third year where I could say, yes, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm running, growing my own business, and what I'm doing with Nate. By the way, his name's Nate Crandall. He is Nate Crandall. Yes. He's Nate to me.
Yeah.
I have followed the pattern that I followed as a basketball coach, which was, and I learned this from my high school basketball coach, who was one of my inspirations. He was a voracious reader and I didn't really know it at the time in my teens, but he's what I would call a lifetime learner. He's a learn-it-all, not a know-it-all. And it was just what sources are out there and what can you learn from them? So from a basketball coaching perspective and teaching perspective, I just begged, borrowed, and stole, Pete. If there was somebody that I could get some wisdom from, I begged them and asked them to share it with me. If there was something to read, great. I read all the great coaches, reading books about generals, reading The Art of War, reading all of these books to just try to get better. So when it comes to entrepreneurship, once I learned how to spell the word entrepreneur, me too. It is I think it's a French word, but it's a funny word, but I just started looking at, okay, who can I learn from? So there's many things to be learned from Brendon Burchard, right? Yes. As far as being an entrepreneur, because he's not just about the coaching. He also provides help with the other part. I've learned a ton from Dan Sullivan. And I know if you were to just like slightly move your head, Pete, I saw earlier when we were getting on, I see a Dan Sullivan book up there, the 10 times. Yeah. I actually came across his podcast 3 years ago called The Multiplier Mindset.
Yep.
And from day one, I was like, wow, I resonate with
Yeah.
this person, and he's been doing this for whatever.
Yeah.
So I I want to listen. And Nate and I hope that people look at us with our combined nearly 60 years of high school coaching experience, being dads, being husbands, and also committing every error and mistake in the book, Pete.
Yeah.
We have done it. So we've lived it. That's so long-winded answer to say I don't I wake up every day pretending I really don't know anything about entrepreneurship and asking myself the question, what's one more thing that I can learn? And if I look back in the last 3 years, which this is very much Dan Sullivan, in his book, The Gap and the Gain.
Mm-hmm.
If I look back and realize, okay, I started at zero, truly as an entrepreneur, because I was a W-2 employee for 32 years in a bureaucracy. I
Mm-hmm.
showed up, I traded my time for money. I did the very best I could within that time, but I got a paycheck every month. And as you said, now there's not a paycheck rolling in if I don't go provide value and find ways for, okay, how do I get people to pay for this? They're only going to pay for it if they believe in it and if they trust me.
Yes.
So I just ask myself every day, how can I become a little bit better at being an entrepreneur? And then I look around for the answers from somebody who's done it better than me and longer than me.
I love that. That is a great answer. So I find in that personal development journey that not everybody is as far along as they can be. What growing up, was there anything that shaped your mindset when you were a kid? Was it your parents? Was it different people that poured into you that gave you that kind of what you just described to our viewers? Did that happen a long time ago before even coaching?
Sure. And I've thought a lot about this. And a couple of years ago, I just made a list, kind of one of those gratitude lists
Mhm.
where I'm thinking about the influential people. And as I looked at the list, which started with my parents, but it also included my one of my grandmothers. It also included teachers. It
Mhm.
included leaders, church leaders,
Mhm.
neighbors, a
Mhm.
piano teacher. I mean, all these people. And I thought, what is the one common denominator? And it really seems so simple, but yet it's so powerful. And that is all of these people that were so impactful to me that some of them I hadn't even thought of their names for years, right?
Yeah.
But I'm writing this list and I'm writing their names down. The one common theme was they all saw something in me that I did not see in myself,
Hmm.
and they told me that.
Really?
They would tell me that, whether it was, and sometimes it was a little stern.
Yeah.
It was like, Steve, you're or sometimes it was Steven, if it was my mother,
Mhm.
Steven, you're better than this. And my dad and my high school coach were my two main influences for me going into actual coaching and teaching.
Yeah.
They just absolutely 100% believed in me many times when I didn't believe in myself. And it would be baffling to me. It'd be like, man, this is unreal. Don't they unequivocally believe that I can do this or be this. And I would look in the mirror and say, I'm looking at this skinny little kid, and that was eating 5 peanut butter sandwiches and trying to, so I wouldn't get crushed on the football field, and thinking, what do they see in me? And I didn't spend, I mean, I was was an immature teenager with an undeveloped brain at the time. But some people would still say it's still developing. But that was enough to fuel me. It was like, oh man, they believe in me. And I think that even needs to happen for the dad who maybe is a little arrogant and thinks I don't need coaching. It's like he still needs the person that absolutely believes that he can find another level. He can improve in some way.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Like in a basketball sense, when Michael Jordan came out of North Carolina, he was a proficient scorer at Chicago. I mean, he was scoring, and they'd win some and they'd lose some. But it wasn't until Phil Jackson came in there and put that system together, coached them, and years later, 5 national championships. So could Jordan have been a great scorer and maybe won a championship? Yeah, probably, maybe. But it took a coach to come in there, take them to the next level. And I think you're right. If we don't know what our potential is, but we think we're fine just the way, like I have a lot of people who say, there's so much free stuff out there. I mean, why would I pay for it? I said, well, free's not going to give you accountability. It's not going to challenge you, not going to give you feedback. It's not going to take you to another level, but there's certainly good free stuff out there, and you should, but have a focus on it. I want to ask you a question about when it comes to like this. I had a gentleman on my podcast, and after I got off, I said, "How did you find me?" And he goes, "I don't know," but it was one of the better ones I had. And he said this: he had an incredible upbringing when he was a kid. He was in a concentration camp at age 5. So you imagine everybody's going to pre-K, and he's in a concentration camp in Russia. So he said PTS. We all know PTSD. But he called it PTSG. We grow through our adversity. We grow through our trauma. We grow through it. So with you, did you have some periods that you got smacked in the face, knocked down, that you really found that that's when I grew the most? Is there anything you could share with our community?
Absolutely. In fact, if I look back, because you and I were, maybe people would say we're entering the golden years, Pete, but every single major growth, like if I drew a line, you have these kind of plateaus, and then you'll have a little jump, you maybe even have a little dip, a little setback. But all of the growth, the major growth periods in my life were preceded by really uncomfortable, sometimes very frustrating, and even discouraging and disappointing experiences that I had. One that really comes to mind is I knew at age 14 or 15 that I wanted to be a coach. By age 16, I knew that I wanted to be a high school basketball coach. It was that or college. And I decided I wanted more stability for my family, because I had some really good mentors telling me, if you're going to be a college coach, this is kind of the life for most coaches. And everybody sees the glamour, right? Everybody sees it's actually not very glamorous, especially your first 10 years or 15 years climbing the ladder. Yeah. And I thought, I want something different for my family as far as stability. But so I decided at age 16, I want to be a head basketball coach, high school. And I grew up in Idaho, but I ended up going to school in Utah and met my wife in Utah. She was from California. I was thinking Idaho, California. And I thought, if I go to Idaho, I have so many connections and know so many coaches, and people know me as a former player. And it will be quite easy, I think, to like start creating my network and become a head coach, because you do have to. That's kind of how it happens. Well, I knew nobody in Utah. And I have 7 letters that basically told me that you're not good enough and we're not hiring you.
Wow.
And so just 7 rejection letters. And if somebody hasn't been rejected, I don't know if they've ever tried to do anything, because
I agree.
it's going to happen. But I noticed after the first few, I thought, what do I need to do besides add experience? Because I was young. I mean, I was in my 20s, and sometimes it wasn't so much, Steve, you're terrible, or we're not going to hire you. It was like, okay, we have this experienced coach that's ahead of you. And yeah, but it still hurt me and made me think, okay, what do I need to do to get better? So I started practicing interviews. I started talking more with head coaches. Hey, what do I need to do? Where do I need to improve? And going through that squirmy, fidgety, uncomfortable phase of, I'm not meeting the standard. I've got to raise my standard. That was uncomfortable and hard. But then I did it. And then all of a sudden, I was pinching myself because somebody said, oh, and I didn't even know the job I ended up getting, my first head coaching job, was one that I had zero inkling or thought that I even had a chance with going up against some of the other candidates. And I was some of the other ones they said no to. I thought, yeah, I've got a real shot. And then I found out actually really didn't have a shot. Another thing I did was I went back and talked to several administrators who were on interview committees that rejected me. And I just point blank asked them, what did I do well? What can I do better? And what would it take for me to be, in your opinion, as an administrator, what would it take? And I'll tell you what, Pete, this is why coaching is so great. And free stuff is awesome. I always tell people, free stuff is great. Can you imagine what the paid stuff is? I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Can you imagine? Because it totally, it goes to another level.
Yeah.
But those administrators really, really helped me. And it basically uncovered all of these blind spots that I had no clue of these blind spots. So yeah, if you want to grow, you've got to get uncomfortable.
Yeah. That's funny. You just said that. My next question was that very thing is, how do you lean into being uncomfortable on a regular basis? Do you have like a morning routine, a journaling? What do you do to get through that uncomfortable? We all have them. And I think as we get through being uncomfortable, we grow. Is there anything you can share, like a morning routine, journaling, anything that helps you get through the uncomfortable stage of whatever you're doing?
I mean, when it comes to routines, I always say the best routine is I call mine the U-teen, which is me. It's like, maybe it should be called me-teen, but I think the best routine is the one that helps you the most. So I know I change my routines, tweak them a little bit every 90 days. And the reason why I do that is I found that they kind of start to get stale.
Yeah.
The routine becomes too routine, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
And then I'm kind of mindlessly doing something. And I'm like, sometimes sitting there saying, why am I doing this? So I wanted to create a little bit of a charge. So yes, I do. I have a very simple journal that I basically use to prepare me for a morning. I don't write lengthy, things every day, but something at night. I have a 10-minute brisk walk that's a part of, I'm no longer doing the crazy running. Nate still is, but I'm no longer doing the crazy stuff. I want to read something. I mean, before we hopped on, I listened to, and I speed up podcasts. I don't know if you do.
I do
I,
too. I go
I
2x. Most of mine are
when
2x.
when I listen to my own podcast back at normal speed, and I feel like right now, I feel like I'm talking fast, but I hear myself. It's like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, this guy needs some caffeine. He sounds so slow. This
I
is
did the
terrible.
same thing. I couldn't
That's
listen to my podcast for 2 years because I didn't like the sound of my voice and the speed. I was like, talk faster, but if,
yes, I
yeah,
know. So I always tell people, please, if you listen to our podcast, speed us up to at least 1.5,
yeah,
1.75. But
yeah.
if you really want us to sound inspiring and intelligent and energetic, speed us up to 2 times. But before we came on, I had listened to a Dan Sullivan,
Yeah.
and I had listened to another local podcast that had a college coach on there. I have learned, Pete, that it doesn't matter how, because motivation is just fleeting, right? It just comes and goes. It's you don't go down to the store and buy a bottle of motivation or buy a package of confidence.
Mm-hmm.
I have to fuel my mind, my body,
Yep.
my spirit. And so I think one of the fun things about tweaking routines is there's so many different things. Like I mean, I look at your bookshelves.
Mm-hmm.
If part of your routine was just to even pull off an old book that you've already read, just read it for 2 minutes, and you'll probably end up reading it for 10.
Yep.
Because it's going to fuel you. Go grab the glass of water and drink it.
Mm-hmm.
Walk outside of your door and just, in fact, I love walking now because I find that it's an idea. I call it an idea addition. I mean, my English teachers would be really disappointed in using the right form of the verb here, but I find that when I walk, I can add ideas and subtract ideas.
Yeah.
Because I have so many ideas. Well, I can't do 100 things or whatever. So it's better to me to walk than to sit in a chair.
Totally agree.
To get a little bit of movement. So I always encourage people to ask a few questions about routines. Like what is going to help me to create a spark if I don't have a spark?
Yes.
I mean, if you leap out of bed and you're just all smiles and ready to go every day, I would probably say, man, we need to use you as a science experiment. You're some type of weird freak or something if that's just happening every single day. Even Brendan Burchard says he doesn't just wake up every morning feeling like Brendan Burchard. It's like you have to create, and that's what Growth Day does too, right?
Yes.
Totally. You talk about the daily fire. You talk about different things that can help you to create that spark. What is it that you need that's going to create a spark for you?
Yeah, I love it. I used to play golf and run, and running was my sanctuary. Now, having a stroke 3.5 years ago, I don't run anymore, but I have to go pedal and I have to be on a treadmill to be able to do that. But it's still that thinking, that sanctuary of thoughts. And I found that journaling helped me have my golf fix because I love strategy, and I play in a stroke tournament. I don't really care as much as I like the strategy of match play, because I love it, studying the opponent and just going through that geeky stuff. But journaling helps me to geek out on my thoughts and my ideas. Just I'll hear somebody, like you'll say something, and I always think in the morning, I just complete silent. Noise bothers me now, sudden noise. So most of the time it's completely silent unless I'm doing a podcast or listening to a one like that.
Right.
But I found that, just kind of putting that thought, because AI, and I want to finish up with AI, because I call people every single day. It's when I go on my porch and the birds and the bees and I think, and I will edit some of my podcasts and do a few things. But what I found is I'll call people and I'll say, well, hey, Steve, like, how are you using AI in your business? And if you are using it, what kind of outcome are you getting? And I'm telling you, 9 out of 10 people, and I don't ask it every single time I'm
Right.
talking, but I'm just curious. Like, I think we all are, when we're coaches, when we're podcasters, when we're into personal development, they're not using it. And this thing is coming like a freight train like we've
Right.
never seen. So how are you guys, how are you and Nate using it? Because it's a tool, it's a powerful tool, but
Yeah.
it never is going to replace our thinking ability like you just described in your idea thought. How
Right.
are you guys using AI to assist you in building y'all's business?
Yeah. Well, we come from a place that we're both teachers, and so we would be the ones pulling out red pen and writing all over a kid's paper if they were plagiarizing, right? If you're
Mhm.
just like, you're
Yeah.
just stealing this idea, you're passing it off as yourself.
Yeah.
And so we're very vigilant that when we're creating content, whether it's on LinkedIn, whether it's on our podcast, we we always start with our original ideas.
Hmm.
But we found that if we bring in, for example, if we bring in ChatGPT, that we bring in another brain, so to speak, and we test our ideas and
Hmm.
our thoughts,
Hmm.
and AI starts becoming an idea generator. And Nate and I always say we'll use it to help us to get to a place. And Nate always says, we would have gotten here because we've done this. We started this before,
Yeah.
obviously before Chat GPT, which is, I think we're going into like the third year of this, but we we get to where we want to go faster,
Hmm.
and we get to more destinations or sites, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
We're able to go further. And another cool thing that I really like about it, and this is one of those steal things, I just listen to other people, and I have a book that's with an editor right now,
Hmm.
and it's been one of the hardest things I've ever done. But one thing that I've started doing with the the book is, okay, I wrote this whole thing. It was an arduous process. And that book is me. So what I do though now is I can take a whole chapter, load it into, create my own GPT within Chat GPT. That's another something I've learned this year.
Hmm.
And ask that GPT to analyze my writing style, my sentence structure,
Hmm.
my voice, all of those things. And then I will write 2 sentences of an idea. Maybe it's like idea addition and subtraction. I've been thinking about idea addition and subtraction. How would I explain this idea to somebody in my voice? Make it sound like Steve.
Yes.
Pete, I have been absolutely blown away
Yeah.
because, and
Yeah.
I've tested this with a few people. I say, hey, you know me, look at these 2 samples. Which one is me? Which one is not me? Because then I'll do one without having it do my voice.
Yeah.
And it's so obvious. They're like, oh, well, you wrote this one. And I said, well, kind of. So then I still don't just use that exact thing. I go back and I actually make it more me. I found that it's pretty good at being like 90% me,
Yeah.
but I'll go through it and say, that that really isn't me. And even as smart as you are, we call her Gemma. We've given our Chat GPT Gemma.
Yeah.
Gemma, that isn't quite me, and so I'll make tweaks. But I'm excited because of my age. It's like, oh wow, there's this is if you use this correctly as a tool, you can still be authentic.
Yes,
You can
totally.
still be ethical,
Yep.
and you can actually use this tool to end up helping and impacting more people.
Yeah.
And then there's just the tools, like the productivity tools, like helping you with searches and
Mhm.
helping you with accounting. And I've like barely scratched the surface on that. I'll have to admit that stuff, I'm excited for AI helping there, but I don't enjoy any of that stuff, which is maybe why AI is going to be so good, because it'll help you to do some solopreneur type tasks that are somewhat tedious and annoying. AI can help you to do those faster and better.
Yeah, no, it takes. I always tell them practice. I just encourage even my kids to just practice with it, because a couple years ago, maybe almost three, my partner who's in Canada, and he's the smartest guy I know, and he's written like 300 books, and when we get on there, his level of conversation is always like way up there. But he kept calling me, and he'd say, what are you doing with AI? I said, I don't have time for that. I'm loving podcasting. I'm not into that stuff. And
Yeah.
he just kept after me. He says, just play with it, Pete. Play with it. Play with it. So when I did my first course, which was several years ago, I flunked English in high school. I'm dyslexic. So English was never my thing.
Right.
So I said, okay, I'm going to test it. And I put the prompts in there. And I literally almost fell out of my chair when I looked at the first version of what probably would have taken me 6 months to a year to do. It did it in like
Yeah.
minutes. And
Yeah.
it was like I put the voice to it. I prompted it a couple things to get what you just described. But I could never have, with what my skill level was, because I always speak because I misspell about every other word. So I always speak my stuff, but it just cranks out stuff so fast,
Mhm.
so efficient,
Yeah.
and it's getting used to your voice, and it just helps you. Because I had a friend of mine, he was the best man in my wedding. He called me, he goes, "Man, I don't understand what you're doing." So he was asking me
Right.
all these questions, and it was good because he's never asked those questions. I always say, let a person be interested.
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything. If you're interested, ask me. I'm not sitting there going to throw up on you. But he was asking me all these questions about, well, what does your team in the Philippines do? Like, what do you have them do? And I was just walking through it. And I said, they're AI trained. He goes, you're using that stuff? I said, yes. I said, you got to weave it in. It's still going to be you. It's still going to be everything. You're just not going to do the boring stuff that slows you down. You want to get something
Right.
that'll just help you do what you do best, because nobody can replace you, your thinking, your experiences,
Exactly.
your ideas, the way you do things versus others. That one, but all the other mundane things that can be done are done by a tool like that. So I want to be respectful of your time. God, I just looked at the time.
Yeah, you said we were gonna go 25 minutes or whatever.
I love it's
Hey,
something about the conversation with you. I guess maybe we're certified high performance coaches. We're into personal development. I don't know what it is, but I love the topic. And so I can't
yeah.
believe it's been 53 minutes. So
Well, I've loved the conversation. I thank you
yeah.
for it, and I'm free for 2 more hours if you wanna just go for 2 more hours, Pete.
It was funny because I used to do senior living, and I lived in a place that the average age was well over 80, and I did for a year and a half. And so I did one. This lady was just as fun, and all of a sudden it was an hour, and the team in the Philippines are going, hey, we don't have the download speed you
Right.
guys do. So you got to shorten these things because it takes all day for us to do this.
Right.
So I have to think of them, or I would
Yeah.
geek out. But let's let's spend a couple minutes afterwards. We can off the air and talk about a few things. But I want you to share with our viewers, how can they get a hold of you? Because I have plenty of parents out there, and I have something for kids that I will share later. But tell people how they can get a hold of you.
I mean, really, you got it up there on the screen. The best way right now is to connect with myself on LinkedIn, and Nate Crandall's also on LinkedIn. His account is a little bit more dormant, but we've actually in the last month just started really posting more on LinkedIn. So I never sell to people. I try to be a guest rather than a pest. But if any of this about the coaching and parenting resonates with people, they can learn more about what we do and our ideas and how we're trying to help people on LinkedIn. That's we do. And then our podcast, which is, you can find it on YouTube. You can find it on Apple, Spotify. It's called the Stop Parenting and Start Coaching podcast.
I love it. Yeah, I went on LinkedIn to look at some of the stuff because I was putting it in the show notes before, just to take some of it. You do have some good stuff up there. And I think I want my community, if you know people, because I don't think I fell into that because I was a good golfer, but I never really had that kind of mindset that people lose themselves in their kids. But I know there's a lot out there, and our kids do need to be coached. They do need to be parented, but they have to do it to get the most out of them. You just don't. It doesn't fall out of the sky and hit them, and all of a sudden they're a great coach and parent. They have to learn to get there. So I'm sure they can schedule a strategy session with you.
Oh yeah.
You can walk them through to see if it's a good fit for you guys to be able to work with them. So what would you say, Steve, as we finish up, what would be one thing you want our viewers to take home from our time on this podcast?
Oh, wow. What a question, Pete. One thing.
I know you could take 10 because you did drop some incredible bombs of
Okay, this is one thing that I would like to tell parents, is to take a deep breath and give yourself a little grace. Because I know the parents that we work with, when they get honest and vulnerable, we find that they are often beating themselves up because they've made this mistake or this has happened. And I think parents are doing much better than they probably imagine, much better than they know. And their kids really do love them. There may be a bit of a connection problem, but their kids are looking to them and are listening to them. And so, yeah, get better. Let's all get better as parents. My kids are adult kids. I am still trying to get better. I am still trying to improve my connection with them and my parenting, although it's different than when they were teens. But I also beat myself up at times.
Yeah.
And I have to remind myself, hey, give yourself a little bit of grace.
Yes.
And just keep putting one foot in front of the other.
I love that. That is so good. Steve, thank you so much for sharing with our community. I love your mindset. I love the thoughts that you shared on our podcast. Thank you for taking the time to be with our community.
Thanks, Pete. This has been great.